All right, please help me in welcoming our guests tonight. We have SCA alumnus, filmmaker Tim Story, of course, the director of many great films such as Ride Along, Think Like a Man, Fantastic Four, Tom and Jerry, Barbershop, and of course the 2019 edition of Shaft. We're joined by Warren Drummond, the storyboard artist, who, in addition to working with John on this film, was the storyboard artist on Too Fast, Too Furious, and I believe the pilot of Snowfall, in addition to films like Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Straight Outta Compton, and Fences. And executive producer Paul Hall, who, in addition to having joined us for Higher Learning, which he produced, is also producer of Addicted, For Colored Girls, Medea's Witness Protection, Higher Learning, of course, Why Do Fools Fall in Love, Shaft, Johnson Family Vacation, and Soul Point.
Hi, Paul. Hey, how are you, man?
Where do we begin? My God. I was asking Warren outside the last time he saw this thing.
I haven't seen it in a long time.
The last time you seen it?
Oh, recorded.
Hit a little in there. Testing 1, 2, 3. Recorded on TV. Part of it, maybe for the last couple of years. Maybe part of it, as far as the entire movie, for a long time.
So we're bringing you guys back. So, well, how did you guys come to be a part of this project? Why don't we talk a little bit about that, and we can, of course, get into this is about a good friend of ours, John, and we'll get into more of that. How did you guys come out to be a part of this?
I started with, I've done hiring, work with John and boys, and Ireland produced, and so we were thinking about the next picture. And Shaft was something that, if you know John, his email was Shaft.
Right.
So it was like, to him, it's like, Malcolm X to Spike in the very first film. We knew that for John, it was Shaft, John Shaft. And we started this film at MGM. So we started making a little picture over there from Mancuso. And we literally developed it for about 6 months. We went and lived in New York and did a lot of work, and the line producers, and John had a script that started in Nigeria. This script was completely different. Yeah. And so that's how we started the film, and then we had a budget then of like, so they were saying 33, 30, 40 million, whatever. And we did a $33 million budget. And when we delivered, 6 months later, we were trying to spend it. We said, we couldn't even get it to 33 million. So we said, no, I'm at 17 million. And John, I can't make this movie for 17 million. Being the producer, said, let's just make it down and dirty. Let's just make it really raw and independent, like 10, 12, and just looked at me like I was crazy. And so the film died in the water. And then we got a phone call from Scott Rubin. And John said, I'm not making this movie with Scott Rubin. I'm not doing it. Well, the producer's job is to get the film made, right? Doesn't matter. At all costs.
Can you share why? You felt that?
Well, because we all know Scott has a reputation. He's tough to make a picture with. Yeah, a little bit, right? And, John was very free in his filmmaking process. And he didn't really want to do a big studio picture at that time, if you will. And and that was the picture coming out of his Sony work, which was home. And Rudin was just notorious, you know, just had a really notorious reputation. And I said, look, you'll get the movie made. It'll be hell, it'll be hell on me, it'll be awful, but we'll get the movie made. And that's kind of, you know, what you have to do. It's like, at some point, someone runs, block, whatever, to get your picture. And so, sure enough, we went to lunch or breakfast or whatever with Scott, and he wined and dined us, and he had the power at the time over at Paramount, and they let the picture go out of Turner and GM at the time over to Paramount. And, you know, I can go on because things did change. Warren, through.
I had a lot easier because I didn't have to deal with Scott every day like we did. So
It was, yeah, every day.
I just had to just draw pictures, just draw pictures there. I got a call from back in Europe, so that's where I'm from actually. So I got a call from a producer, line producer that worked named Roger Paradiso. So Roger said, hey, John Singleton's doing a Shaft film. Do you want to be on it? I said, hell yeah. So they had to do prep here in Los Angeles. So they said in order for that to happen, you need to fly yourself out and find a place to live, put yourself up. Because there's a lot of, back in Europe, it was me and few other people. Or people on Hernandez. But out here, there's a lot of us. So I said, okay, this might change everything. Because I had just really been in the business maybe for 4 years, in '97 when we started out. And as Paul Cup alluded to, the original storyline was not what you saw here. John wanted to do what you actually did later on, a father, son, the daughter story also. You have with John Shaft, a son was a cop, and there was a father-son tension, and he wanted that. That was the film. And he wanted it to be somehow related to Shaft in Africa.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
And all of Batman,
right.
particularly.
Right.
Right.
And there was a bad guy called, I think, the artist, and he was like a Hans Gruber type,
Right.
very stylish. So I came out here, and we met, and I read the script, really liked it. He wanted the original Shaft in the movie, a totally different movie. So when we got together, he showed me the artwork of his previous artist, a gentleman named Peter Ramsey, whom, as you may know, Peter won the Oscar for this movie, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So he has an Oscar now, and I don't yet. So he said, this is the type of work that I expect to have. And I was like, okay, it's kind of good. This guy's kind of good. So then I just had to bring my game up. And how long I did it, and John was like really impressed, and we just clicked.
Could you speak about some of the things that John either showed you, or what were some of the ideas he had as far as, you know?
Well, this movie is for
what in terms of just the visual style that he might have
he liked
produced or said he wanted to.
Yeah, he really loved David Fincher's Seven. That was like, he wanted to look a lot like that. Whether it finally came off like that, it's a different type of movie, but he wanted that look. He loved his hero was Steven Spielberg, so he would take little shots from Steven. But I think tone-wise, Seven was really it. And remember, again, it was a different storyline, so he wanted that. So after things changed, like I started, when I started on the movie, it was the original script. And some of it did survive into the later movie. It was, I think, like we had, well, I think the big issue was who's going to be Shaft if there's a son, who's going to be it. And back then, like now we have, let's say in the last 10 years, it's really opened up as far as black actors finding work. And you have all these English black actors besides the Americans. Back then, you had one star, you had Denzel, He was the star actor. He had one other guy, Lawrence Fishburne. He had one action guy, Wesley Snipes. You had one comedy guy, Eddie Murphy. There was always one, you got one. There wasn't like, oh, we have Tom, we have Brad, we have this, we have that. You got one of everything. That was it. So, as Paul would know, they had to go through a lot of things, and then the storyline changed, and then MGM, like I said before, MGM said, here's your money right here, and there you go. And John said, hell no. So when he came back, I came back a year later, and they were still trying to figure out who was going to be Shaft. But by then, I think they started to change the storyline from being about a father-son to just a Shaft. So then who's going to be Shaft? I think because Tucker was talked about a lot of different things, or at least whispered about, talked about, all that. And then finally, you could say how Sam got on, and then we got Sam. So once Sam was on, but he was hot as is still now, then it became his Shaft. If you notice the way that Sam looks in the movie, the reason why Nick Fury looks that way is because of John. Because Ruth Carter also took earlier. But the look that Nick Fury has, the facial hair, the coat, that was Shaft first. Because Shaft did it, and then the comic book artist Brian Hitch, who in his comic The Ultimates made his Nick Fury, because the white Nick Fury made him black, and he made him look like Shaft. And then that's why Marvel then said, let's get Sam Jackson.
And Paul, you should talk about, Sam Jackson. One of the things that this movie, it's been a while since I've seen it. One thing that's amazing to me about John is his knack for casting. And you should talk a little bit about maybe how, Sam Jackson, and even
Sure.
we're looking at a cast, it's an amazing cast in this
Yeah.
movie. So
Yeah,
you should
yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah, John really had a great cast. I mean, when you go back to Boys and look at what those folks were about, and, come forward to things before this, casting was his rule, the music was his rule. Well, what happened was we went to another script. We went to Shane Salerno, who was a writer, who came in, and Scott kind of threw his pages out the window. And Richard Price came in. But during this movie got to Paramount, and during the casting process, we had John Leguizamo to play Peoples, and he was caught up doing Moulin Rouge at the time, and John hadn't seen or heard of Jeffrey Wright, and I'd seen Jeffrey Wright in Frostbeard, right? And you need to see this guy. And Jeffrey Wright, as you can see, in my opinion, he almost steals the movie.
Well, this is my introduction to Jeffrey.
Yeah.
He was,
Right?
Like, who's that?
Fierce, right? I mean, he was people. John, it was like, who else could be? And amazing actor. You see his career. No, it's amazing. Sam really was a product, I think, of John and Scott at the end of the day. Because, Sam was getting paid for real. And Scott, again, like I said, you'll get your movie made. And that's what getting your movie made is about. And having the juice producer, if you will, behind you. Scott virtually ran Paramount. It's funny, I'm there right now doing Fight Man Can't Jump. And I was walking through literally after the mid stage and remembering that when we were on that lot, putting that picture together. I've been there since, but it's just Paramount reminds me of the days when we were doing Shaft. And so Sam came on, and if you remember, when I first thought of Sam, it's like when I mentioned Chris Tucker and a lot of other young cats, and Sam seemed a bit in another space in terms of age. But if you do go back to what Gordon Parks did, Richard Roundtree had swag. He had this thing, he was a model, and this was really his first real film. He'd done a European film or something, this was the first real feature he'd done. So John, though, what he wanted more than anything was the film was important to him was the swag, that it had something. And Sam, if you think of all the actors, had swag, and particularly Ben. So that would work, you know, as long as he could run a little bit, you know. That's what was important. So Sam came aboard, and yeah, we went through some interesting times. At one point, Leslie was going to do it. That didn't work. I think Will was entertained. That didn't work. And when you think about it, Wesley doesn't really fit to it. To a degree, he would fit maybe back then. Will would not, and neither would Chris Tucker. I mean, they're all great, but they weren't shallow, you know? And so that's what I mean in terms of Sam and the swag that was needed for the picture. What Richard Price did, if I'm not jumping ahead of you, if you know Richard Price, he wrote Clockers, and he was, he did The Wire and stuff with Pelicanos. And what he did was he constructed a procedural, in a way, what we call procedural, right? And but with not much regard for the flavor that was the signature of the street. His signature was certainly Singleton at the time. So all those little innuendos of what he and Scott would fight about, or we all would debate. But and the biggest thing that you can see is that there's no sex. With Sam had no real relationship, and it's very difficult to do shall without some kind of relationship. And so, to this day, if you talk to Sam, or you talk to Tim, or you talk to anyone who's associated with the franchise, it was just a big bomb, but somehow we got through it, but Scott definitely did not want any kind of sexual relationships going back.
It's like a James Bond movie where Bond does not have one woman. He doesn't, and that would never happen. At least one. Even Timothy Dalton Bond.
And
had one.
And it wasn't being politically correct. That's who the character was.
That's the character. Just John Shaft.
Either you don't make it.
Now obviously we see Gordon Parks.
Had a really nice cameo sitting next to Gordon Parks.
Yeah. I was playing chess with him. Yeah, right. That was,
Yeah,
and you saw John in the film too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One other thing. Did anyone pick up a young Elizabeth Banks?
Oh yes, absolutely. Thanks. I mean, the cast is in.
Yeah, he was crazy.
The cast is really great.
Gordon Parks, I mean, a Renaissance man. The connection for me in this picture was crazy. This is my third feature. I've done Higher Learning, Why the Fools Fall in Love, and then I did this picture this week in developing it. But when Shaft came out, the first Shaft, it was monumental. It was like your head exploded because you had this character, this Renaissance man, who'd been, for the most part, photographer. This great photographer that we watched and followed, who documented the world and high fashion, as well as street gang photography, Black Panther photography. So to have Gordon Parks make this film with not only a guy that was unknown but he was smooth and cool, but to musically be connected to Isaac Hayes. And Isaac Hayes at the time had done 4 records that were just, it was huge. He was on his way to the Academy Award for this, right? So it was a piece of culture that really just, everything dialed in and locked up perfectly. So, I'll tell you a story, when we were developing the picture in pre-production, we were both living in New York. John lived downtown, I lived midtown. And I kept saying, John, we gotta go pay homage for Mr. Parks. But we get busy, and one week, 2 weeks ago, and I said, we gotta get to Mr. Parks. Let's just take him to dinner or something for his assistant. So we were about 2 weeks from shooting, and finally, I got to his assistant. She says, "Oh yes, go to his home." He lived in the UN Plaza in New York, and for me, it was like and John, it was like the Renaissance, going to meet, sit at the feet of Buddha, if you will. Yeah, it was big, and so we asked, he says, "Where should we meet?" The restaurant. He's older and we don't want to keep him up. She said, "Well, just go to his house, go to his apartment, and you guys will decide from there." So we got to his apartment, and he met us with an apron on.
Okay.
And an ascot, of course. And he said, "Young man, I think we're going to just cook dinner tonight, the three of us." And we went into Gordon Parks' home, which was like a museum. And I'm just like blown away. You're looking at the East River and, Gordon Parks' work, his art, his symphonies, just crazy. And he said, "So John, what can you cook?" And I said, "Well, he said, just open the water." and I guess I did a salad, and he did, some fish or something. And we just talked about cinema and his life. And John said, of course, and I never bring the picture, but John said, "Do you have the jacket?" And Gordon went, "Yeah, I do." And he went in his closet and brought out the slate and the jacket. And John put it on and took pictures, of course. And I took pictures of him and Gordon, and then we all kind of took pictures, and we're having wine. It was just a wonderful evening. And we've been there about 2-3 hours. It got to be about 12. Yeah, we were working all of a sudden. I'm front to Gordon's apartment. Oh, what's that? So Gordon said, "Oh, hold up, gentlemen." And one of Gordon's buddies had come, and he had 2 friends with him. And Mr. Parks looked at us and he says, "Gentlemen, it's been a wonderful evening." Right?
Wow.
Okay.
That was my
That was
Gordon.
cute.
Yeah, it was the cue, no question about it. It was pretty nice. It was, making this movie was fun. Because you're in New York in 98, I guess, 99, if you remember? Yeah, 99. And it's just, the energy is just completely different. Yeah,
Really shooting
I know, right? And I've shot there since a few times, but it wasn't like this. Because you had the project to be doing.
Now, well, we're going to open it up to the audience, just ask some questions, but we see that you have something going. Is there anything you want to go over specifically?
This is the opening where Shaft hits the character Christian plays Walter. He puts the force, so you back up, get the shots, selection in there.
Which one do you want to
Just the first. Well, that's not okay.
Sorry.
Basically, that's fine. Basically, John had a very firm idea for his shot selection. He would start with, he said, you write everything, every shot get down is 2.5. Master shot, he said, master shot, camera tilts down, shaft comes into view, media master, shaft goes left to right. As camera pans, another character comes in, and he had every shot locked in. If you notice, that's in the movie. That's basically what before they cast Sam. That's Jeff there. That's whoever I thought Wesley Snipes right back then. But it's basically the same kind of thing as far as he's throwing the basketball up, hitting people coming down, camera coming in, and then you see this confrontation of the police and people.
I'm glad you brought that one. I mean, one thing I can say about John, and I worked with a bunch of directors. Not one director's ever been as prepared as John. Not one. The most prepared director I've ever worked with. seriously.
And he was also a lot of fun to work with. Whatever you do out there, have fun at what it is. Get paid. That's a very big thing, being paid. But have fun with your job. Know that you are blessed to be in an industry where a lot of people can't get into the industry. That's if you're into film, as you are. Appreciate every day you have a gift of making movies or TV or whatever it is, but you love your job.
It's hard.
Oh, it's hard. It works hard.
Still
Again, I just do this all day, and hours a day, but
Yeah,
I have to deal with like personalities and studios and all that. But we all, so John would have his assistant just type everything out, and I have a shot list, and on every movie there'll be a shot list. Okay, you have 50 shots we're seeing, on Too Fast, Too Furious, the opening car chase. His shot list maybe had like 150 shots, and some of the shots had A, B, and C's, and some D's and F's. Because he'd always, here, a lot of, you'd have singles, but there'd always be a shot. One shot would come into another shot, which would push you to another shot. He did not have a, let's say, a Michael Bay philosophy of, I'm going to have 50 cameras, we're going to shoot everything, and we'll figure it out. That's the Michael Bay way.
Yeah.
John, he knew what he wanted to have on every shot.
Yes, sir.
When you did Sean, what was your, your paradigm? What was your thinking? This is many years later, and,
Oh, well, I mean, God, there was a situation where I went back to the original, so I started with the original, and then watched John's. And I knew in me coming to the third sequel, and we were trying something different. We were actually going to introduce some humor into on purpose. And it was one of those situations. The script, Kenny Bear, gave me an amazing script in terms of just what it was, and what I liked most about it was we were showing Shaq as a father, as a person. And we were diving more into his domestic attitude, you want to say,
Mhm.
however you want to say it like that. And I think with me, what I was doing in going to it, what I wanted to accomplish most was the texture of what I knew John had done with his being homage to the original. So I knew I wanted to have the texture, but I knew there was another side of it that I was going to do. So as long as I dressed it up appropriately, we were going to kind of try to go against everything that we had seen before.
right.
And some got what we were doing, some didn't, but that's what was fun, and that's one of the things that Sam and I talked about, is that we've seen him tough, we've seen
Yeah.
the edgier version of it, and we were really excited about making something that kind of believe that what else it could be. And also, too, Sam was gung-ho about having some levity to it, about making it fun, making it
Right.
funny. And I learned in working on that, Sam knows humor,
Yes.
he knows how to, he knows humor, he's incredible like that. So, I mean, that's a short snippet of a little bit of our culture.
And you also put in John's movie, Roundtree's character is the uncle,
Yeah.
right? Because they're not too far apart in age. But your version establishes as John's going to have a father son. So
Right.
Roundtree, Sam's Shaft finds out Roundtree's Shaft is his dad.
Yeah. Well, look, that was something that was in the script with Kenyon writing it. At that time, Roundtree, completely gray hair, and it's like the coolest look in the world. So he just looked older. And so at one point, I must admit, we talked a lot about how do we deal with this, because in this movie, it was nephews. Well, we said, why don't we just make this father? Now, understand, they're like 6 years apart. I mean, they're like 6, 7 years apart. And we just said, so. And just said, why not make the lineage, because we didn't want the lineage to be grandfather, father, son, going into this battle. And we just kind of knew, and that's why we threw that one line in there that said, if you know black culture, There's a line in there, I didn't think I was even talking about my film, so I trying to remember it. But he says, something about a thought. He says, oh my God, I can't remember the line. There was some way we explained it in the sense of, yeah, when you stop pretending to be my uncle. And in the black culture, I'm pretty sure in other cultures as well, there have been those times where you find out, oh, such and such is who's son, father, son. Oh, wait a second, they've been the uncle all the time, but they really were that. Yeah, we won't even, that's a whole other conversation. But we do that in there, and we found that anytime we showed it to an audience, they laughed, they got it, and then you move on. Because what I really think the audience had a lot of fun with is the lineage of these, absolutely, John Shafts, going into battle together, and so we had to figure out whatever way it was to get to that. So that's
cool. Yeah.
It's as simple as we gave them.
The coats were great.
Coat. Heavy, they're heavy, we weighed them, they're about 55 pounds.
Wow.
Alone, so it was, and Sam kept his.
Oh, Sam always
Sam always
keeps
keeps all
well.
his.
We're the
Oh,
same
it's-
height, Sam and I are the same height, so I need to like borrow one.
Yeah, that Armani stuff, Sam.
Yeah, that was, we had some good times with that. But hey, I want to make sure we open it up to the audience just in case there's any specific questions.
So you talked about.
So we have some mics. So,
Hello. So you talked about the lack of Shaft having a relationship, but you did kind of pepper it in at the opening credits. That montage with Josh, something going on, and then you put it in when he goes into the bar and he has a long kiss with her. So you did get some of that, in there, but you didn't bog the story down with him having a relationship.
Correct.
It was nice. It was just a nice way of still giving him some, that interest.
Sure.
Without bogging the story down with a,
Unnecessary.
nice
Yeah,
work.
that was in, obviously the main titles were Baltimore,
Everett,
Everett,
Baltimore,
yeah, titles to kind of address that. That was kind of the intention.
And also too, with the casting that many of the main actors in there are like very well known now, like Christian Bale and like,
Oh, yeah. It was the comeback for him.
and
Yeah.
Santiago, and so it was just great to see.
Sonia Song was
Yeah, Sonia Song. Just seeing a lot of people now who are just really like, well,
Yeah, like Tim says, John's group was cast
yeah.
really, really good.
Yeah, wonderful work, wonderful.
Anybody else? Sure. Matt?
Good evening, everyone. I've been here on assignment. My boss told me I need to show up today and the next few events, so I'm excited to be here. Thank you, gentlemen up front, for your contribution. I'm curious, what are some of your favorite attributes, both creatively and personally, that you can share with us about John?
I can say that John made coming in to work fun every day. He had an energy about him. He had this childlike energy that we both shared. Again, both of us love comic books and sci-fi movies and old movies, and we talk about things all the time. He had an energy. He loved making it. I never heard John raise his voice to anyone, as far as I know. He always talked to, from PAs to office people, he always talked to you like a person. He didn't have any director and all that. He was just a cool, chill guy.
Yeah, I agree, he was definitely chill. John was, I can honestly say, one of my best friends. Losing John was very, very difficult for me. I will say this, his greatest attribute, I think, was building legacy. He was about, if you thought he could see in you what you might not see in yourself. He put a lot of people to work, and a lot of people look back now and realize